I guess the one common theme of the game on Monday was that the Kings' two best players played really well. And we know that Sabonis is an all-star. Just the whole, it's not a bid to be an all-star anymore. It's just it's a fact, I guess. But I think, because we talked about at the beginning of the season, like who's more likely, who has a higher likelihood of being an all-star before the season even started. And we were talking about, well, Sabonis, especially if the team's winning, because the team's going to be winning specifically because of Sabonis. He's going to be the catalyst at the center, kind of providing the framework that allows the train to stay on the track. Everything starts with him in a way. And that's remained mostly true, and we've talked about Fox being so important because he kind of dictates how far this team can go. He's dictating the height of the ceiling. He's the wind behind the sails, all these things. But he proved something by missing a few games, being off for a few games, I should say, and missing a few games, and then coming back. Because for a little bit there on that road trip, especially when he was out, the Kings really got away from playing their brand of basketball. They were down in assists. Their pace was down, and their defense wasn't as sharp. But as soon as Fox came back, all three of those things were tightened right back up. And that's no coincidence at all. And also, I think another thing that's important, the fourth thing, is the bench was able to play better because Fox plays a lot of minutes with the second unit guys at the end of the first and into the second quarter. And you could see all those things just bounce right back into what we were used to seeing when the Kings were winning consistently. And I guess this is a long-winded way of saying, man, I feel like that all-star case for Fox is still pretty strong, even though I feel like it took a hit. I think it's fair to say, right? I mean, it's still fairly strong. I think especially if the Kings continue staying as one of the top teams in the West come February, it's hard not to have both of those guys.
Yeah, as long as Fox doesn't have another stretch like he did of 10 games somewhere between now and the All-Star game, 'cause it's about, 2 months away, really, right? So, I think so too. I think, especially with the Kings winning. If the Kings drop off, but Sabonis is still putting up the same numbers and Fox is, I think Sabonis is still an all-star regardless, and Fox isn't. But if the Kings keep playing, they're still in a playoff scene in the West. And Fox is still putting up Fox type numbers like 25 a game and putting the team on his back in games and carrying them and getting that national media attention that he has actually gotten this season. I think he's an all-star too, but he did have a bad stretch of games, regardless if it was his foot or not. It was like it definitely kind of put him into like that foggy area where I'm like, oh, okay, now he's in this gray area where he's kind of like a borderline all-star still. But it was nice to see him kind of pick up back to where he left off and kind of stayed at that level the last 3 games. So that's been nice, but it's really just going to depend on if he has another bad stretch. There's a lot of good guards in the West, a lot of good guards he's going to battle against. So that's another thing you got to think about too. Where Sabonis, he's just like, man, this dude is good, no doubt. Fox still has to earn it, just because of his inconsistency so far this season. And like I said, it's those 10 games really that stand out. But I think he's still on track to potentially, have a good chance to potentially be an all-star. But he still has to earn it, where Sabonis, I think, has already done so.
Yeah, I agree. Just got to, from here on out, figure it out. Stay in it. Don't get hurt.
Yeah. And if you get hurt, maybe just take a day off.
Yeah. I mean, it was such a bad look. I mean, like when the Kings lost at home to the Suns and Devin Booker was just going off and Fox was nowhere to be found. It's like that felt like such a bad look for all-star chances. So you do have to avoid that kind of stuff, regardless if you're hurt or not. And also, you're talking about the winning being huge. I mean, the winning, as I was just pointing out, is predicated a lot on whether Fox is there and making the impact that he usually makes, because it does affect the team. Maybe not to the extent, I don't know if it's as a team, like in terms of team-wide effect from his presence on the floor, Sabonis probably still has him beat. But I think Fox has proved in his return that it's far more substantial than I probably imagined. So it'll also be not just dependent that he plays well. I guess the three things kind of intertwine. He's got to win to be an all-star. He's got to stay healthy to win, and he's also got to stay healthy to be an all-star. You know what I mean? I don't know. It just kind of cross sections all the way around.
Yeah.
And so that's all. But yeah, he could totally do it. And
I think so.
I think the return and how the Kings kind of returned to playing like the Kings, that was a big sign that like it's still very hopeful. The hope is strong for him. Yeah, just gotta continue.